Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Iron Age Marketing. I am, as always, Nicky P. My guest here today is Aaron Ryan. Aaron, why don't you give an introduction to what you do and how you found your way here?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm an avid enthusiast for getting in as many places as I can to talk about the story that I was given. So I am, I've got a kind of a dual career going on. I'm a voiceover artist, so I tell other people's stories, but I'm also an author, so I tell my own stories. And so I wrote a best-selling sci-fi alien invasion book that ballooned into a trilogy that ballooned into a hexalogy. So the trilogy plus 2 prequels, those are all out right now. And I'm working on a sequel, which makes it I think I said the wrong word earlier. 5 books is a pentalogy. I'm actually making it a hexalogy of 6 books. It's the best thing I've ever written. I'm super grateful for the heart and the thematic depth that's inherent in it. And just love to talk to people, especially those who are self-published authors, because there's a big specter about getting yourself out there, doing the marketing. Why don't I just choose a traditional publisher? What's the deal with agents? All that stuff. So I enjoy talking about my books and theirs.
So what is your publishing? Are you self-published? Do you have an agent? Is there a combination of those two things that actually works?
I don't know about a combination, man. It's hard. As a voiceover artist, I've got 6 different agents. So, I mean, I enjoy that side of it. But getting a literary agent is very difficult. Your material has to be saleable from them to a publisher. They have a vested interest in that and seeing those, the book. So I prefer, honestly, always, and this is the way I've done every single book that I put out there, and I'm working on my 19th and 20th books. I prefer to be self-published for a number of reasons. One, you retain all creative control. For people who like to have their hands in the pots and all the cookie jars, that's very appealing. 2, you command a higher royalty. You'll always be able to do that. 3, much faster time to market. Trad pubs are going to take a long time to get your stuff out there. You can choose your own team of editors, graphic designers, beta readers, alpha readers. I just prefer self-publishing so much that I actually wrote a book on self-publishing and marketing, and I self-published it.
Well, you come out. I can't. You need a title. I'm gonna have to have a look at it myself. So, what's that one called?
It's a very long title, so I actually have to reference the title. I wanted to make it very SEO optimized. So take a big breath. How to successfully self-publish and promote your independent book, a self-publishing and business marketing guide for the independent author. There you go.
Nice. And watch another 3 years and ain't even gonna matter because SEO is going down the tubes.
Yeah, I know. But the book doesn't focus strictly online stuff. I do so many craft fairs, vendor markets, trade shows, and that's where you make your money. That's where you sell your books. So that's mentioned in this book. If you want to market it correctly, do it offline. Market the snot out of it. Get out there with people.
Absolutely. I mean, like I've talked to people that they'll take their science fiction novel out and bring it to farmers markets and things like that, or anywhere that they can get it in front of people, strike up that conversation and say, here's what it is, here's what it's about. You never know when you're going to come across someone you're going to vibe with and it's going to make sense. One of the biggest things I tell everyone, it's all about relationships. Marketing is relationship building, and the better you are at that, the better of a time you're going to have getting rid of your book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Starbucks doesn't sell coffee. Starbucks sells relationships. And I was given the best advice, and I feel bad because I can't remember who said it, but it is an author. And she said, if you want to know how to be an excellent marketer, stop marketing. Don't market to people. Be an enthusiast with people. The difference is absolutely night and day. People love to buy. They hate to be sold. You're twisting my arm. That doesn't make for a good relationship with a potential buyer or reader.
It's funny you say that, actually, because anyone will tell you part of my personality is I'm a fan always. Like, the whole reason I got into try to get into the niche of marketing I got into is because I just want more books I want to read. Like, I want to help people make books that are going to make me happy to read. When I was in bands, I was always the guy that was like, there's local bands that I'd still geek out about if I ran into today. I love being a fan of the material. And so wanting to go and talk about it and be excited about it for me is second nature. And I think that it was certainly with a lot of authors, the ability to go out there and be excited and just talk about your thing. They feel guilty about doing it, but it's kind of what you have to do. It's part of the game. It's part of the system. And if you can't manage that enthusiasm for your product, nobody else certainly is.
Nobody else will. It's for that very same reason, as a voiceover artist, I narrated all of my audiobooks. I hate narrating audiobooks. I don't do them for clients because they take forever and they pay way too little. But no one else is going to, when you hear the narration of the story, no one else is going to evoke such emotion. No one else is going to be as attached to the story or the characters. So that's my enthusiasm for this story shining through in those recordings. I'd be seriously remiss if I outsourced that recording to anybody else. By the same stretch, getting out there and just telling people about this story that so compelled you and captivated you, and you want them to partake of it as well. That's just being enthusiastic, not a marketer.
No, absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I personally, it's way harder to get me to listen to an audiobook. Most of my book reading is audiobook consumption, just because I spend a lot of time driving, doing other things, where the only way I can get them in, if I want to get them in, is to listen to them. And I prefer the author read it. I don't care if they're not a professional audiobook. There's an understanding of the character that I think is really hard to get. And you can always tell if you're listening to audiobooks. I mean, I guess partly because I'm an audio engineer, I can hear the punch-ins when the voice changes. And it always happens to be at some really emotive moment when they change it, because they didn't quite get it right the first time and probably didn't get it just right the last time, but they couldn't have any more takes on it.
Yeah, it's, what is that phrase? People don't care what you know until they know that you care. So, I've done a horde of research for every single one of the novels in my series, particularly volume 3. And so I know, air quotes, a lot now more about, I said that wrong. I know a lot more now about military and tech, equipment and procedures and protocols and all of that I didn't know before. People don't care about that until they know that I care about the story. Again, it just brings you back to the enthusiastic nature of what you wrote, sharing it enthusiastically.
So you don't don't do audio recording for other people. You do it for yourself. Now, is that because of the business changing a little bit, or how does this whole thing work out? It's interesting that you would classify yourself as both the, the creator and the reader.
Yeah. Well, voiceovers, so they're kind of parallel tracks. Again, voiceovers, I'm telling other people's stories. That's my studio behind me. And for an author, I get to tell my own, which is just so much more preferred. But audiobooks, they pay a pittance. They take, if you're recording an hour, it's going to take you 2 hours to record, edit, produce, and maybe even more that single hour. But you're only paid per finished hour unless you go on a royalty share program. I don't prefer the royalty share because that's like, if your book sells, then I'm going to get paid. I don't like that unless you're a Stephen King or a Suzanne Collins or, an Isaac Asimov or Tolkien.
Well, you know the math.
Yeah, it's hard to compute that. It's a lot of hours invested per book. I don't like doing them for that reason. I do commercial and e-learning narration, which pays a lot more. But with my own books, I was not going to let anybody sink their teeth into those because they wouldn't sink their teeth in the same way I would. They wouldn't bring it to life.